the tour is not over.
Still. Come on.
Still.
It's not possible.
So it looks like the Tour de France might be over for Jonas Vingegaard's quest for the yellow jersey. But don't tell him that. Even after losing time again on stage 18, Jonas insists he can still win. But when the reporters heard that, well, even they didn't quite buy it. So let's take a look at the post-stage interview. Has people questioning if Jonas is running out of time and ideas. Okay, here we go.
Today was a brutal day, 5 hours in the saddle, and yeah, I'm not sure I've ever done such a hard stage in the Tour before. I said it before the stage, but yeah, this was a brutal stage. I felt good.
So he said today was brutal, one of the hardest stages ever. I don't dispute that. He certainly looks like he's been through a tough one, doesn't he? He says he felt good and the legs felt good, but I don't know, he didn't necessarily look that way to me from the way he rode that final climb. I mean, not to throw any shade on him, but even Oscar Onley was able to follow and he attacked towards the end. But yeah, fair enough, it was brutal. It was one of the hardest stages ever. Totally makes sense. But then we get to tactics and he says this.
The team felt good. We had big plans, obviously, you could see, to try to go early. We did, and yeah, unfortunately I couldn't take any time on Tadej, but well, the team did amazing today, and I want to thank my teammates again.
So there we have it. The team had big plans, but unfortunately I couldn't take any time on today. And this is the third or fourth time that we've heard Jonas say that this Tour de France. It's starting to sound a bit repetitive. It's starting to sound a bit like resignation. And then comes the talk of the tactics themselves. And I'm sorry, but there were definitely some things that were questionable to me. So this is what he says.
Everyone was 100% behind the plan, and yeah, gives me so much motivation when I have a team like this working for me.
With the team, you really put the pressure on today, but in the valley before the final climb, Col de la Loze, there was some kind of ceasefire. Why was that?
Yeah.
The reporter even asks him, the attack started on Madeleine, you started early, but then you knocked it off in the valley before Col de Loze. Why was that? And this is what Jonas has to say.
Yeah, no, we didn't want to work together. And then Lipovic went off the road, and we waited for our teammates. And then we started pacing again on the Col de la Loze.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, it was interesting, even the reporter questioned him on it. But from my opinion, the attacks from Madeleine were the good idea. He had to do that. He had to try something different in this Tour. We know that going towards the end, Pog can match those accelerations. So he kind of had to try something, go earlier on and really put the fatigue into his legs. That part made sense. The bit that didn't make sense was afterwards in the valley, where Jonas had Jorgensen with him, Pog had nobody, there were teammates behind, there were a few other random GC guys in the group like Gol, Lipowitz when he managed to get back, Roglic who was a remnant from the break. But when Ina Rubio and Ben O'Connor attacked from the front of the group, what was really crazy was that Matteo Jorgensen went with them. He'd just been trying to get them to work. He was going back between people and trying to get them to work together. Jorgensen went with them, and at that point, surely they shouldn't have cared too much about Jorgensen getting the stage win and should have been more concerned with making Vin be able to take some time on Pog. And I don't know if they thought that Vin was going to be able to use him as a satellite rider later on, but essentially what happened was it meant that Vin and Pog looked at each other and sat up so that the teammates behind were able to come back to that group, which didn't really serve Vin any help whatsoever. The whole point of attacking that early was to hurt Pog and to put some fatigue in, but also to get rid of his teammates so he didn't have any support on Col de Loze on the final climb. So in my opinion, Matteo Jorgensen should have stayed in that group and pulled until he was absolutely dead, until pretty much the base of Col de Loze, done a suicide pull there, and Vin should have just gone as hard as he possibly could up Col de Loze, in a TTF and hope that he could crack Pog. As unlikely as it is, that was probably his best chance. The other option that they could have done, which would have made sense, was for Vingegaard to go with Lipowitz, which would have forced Pog to go with him. Vingegaard could have essentially used Lipowitz to keep the pace up and keep them away from the group that were behind. But instead, it really didn't make any sense because, as I say, they sat up, looked at each other, the teammates came from behind, and then, as Jonas just said in his own words, they started to pace again on Col de Loze. And that didn't really help Jonas at all because Pog's team were the stronger team really on the climb and were the ones setting the pace towards the second half of the climb. So really the Visma tactics kind of blew up in their face there. They should have gone all in after that attack on Madeleine and tried to keep that gap from the group behind. So really crazy tactics there, but that's not the craziest thing that happens in this interview, because look what happens next.
We are going down. Was that the case today, and is this Tadej unbeatable now for the Tour de France?
So he's asked, is Tadej unbeatable now for the rest of the race? And this is what he says.
No, I think it looked like we were pretty equal today. He took a few seconds in the end, but yeah, the Tour is not over.
Still. Come on.
Still.
It's not possible.
Did you hear that? So let's listen to that again. So listen very carefully to what Vin says, but also to the end of this.
The Tour is not over.
Still. Come on.
Still.
It's not possible.
So if you caught that, he said that he thought that they were pretty close today and that the Tour's certainly not over yet. One of the reporters says, still? And Jonas goes, still. And another reporter says, come on, it's not possible. So even the reporters think that Jonas is deluded at this point. And whilst I agree they were fairly close today, you know, Jonas has to admit at this point that pretty much barring a crash, accident or injury, he's fighting for second place. Look, Jonas is still one of the best climbers in the world. And even though he's definitely looked better in this third week, the legs this tour don't look the same. The tactics have been shaky at times. And now the belief, despite what he says publicly, must be fading, as we only have one mountain stage left and he's 4.5 minutes behind Tadej. And I think he definitely does know that, because you can see in the interview, there's no anger, there's no frustration, it's just almost resignation. So is he really out of time, out of road, and out of answers? Let me know what you think. Does Jonas have one nuclear monster attack left in him tomorrow to try and drop Tadej and take yellow? Or is this tour already done and dusted? Make sure you hit the like, comment, most importantly subscribe button. It's free and it really helps the channel. Catch you on the next one.